Okay, so back in 2011, the computer industry came up with this concept of secure boot as a way to sort of protect the boot process and make sure that, rogue software didn't get introduced somehow along the way. Much like in Windows 10, 11, you have drivers that are signed so that you know that, hey, this driver actually came from NVIDIA or from Microsoft or from Logitech, etc. Shortly after that, Microsoft made it a requirement that if you wanted to have a machine that was certified that it was a Windows 8 compatible machine, you had to support Secure Boot. So back then, 2011, 2012, Microsoft came up or had to create some certificates that would be used to sign those portions of the boot process. It would sign the boot manager, the boot logs, or the database, all that sort of stuff that is all part of when the boot process is going through. Well, those certificates were only good for 15 years, and they started in 2011. Well, do the math. We're 15 years later, and in 2026, and actually June 24th, 27th, and October 19th, all those certificates expire. And what that means is that your computer will continue to boot, or should continue to boot, except you won't be able to get any updates to the bootloader. You won't be able to run or boot from anything that uses new certificates. And so you're kind of stuck, you're just locked in time. Until you can get those new certificates. The new certificates came out in 2023, and little by little, I guess they've been kind of folded into brand new PCs, etc. that you would get. But on this channel, most folks are using older hardware, the minis, and in particular, anything that is from about 2018 and earlier, which would be your G3s, G2s, G1s. The G4s and above are supposed to get BIOS upgrades. And if we look here, this article from HP talking about these secure boot certificates, and it says here, if we look under desktops, we'll see that here's an 800 G6, but if we come up here, we see the G4. It's saying that you need to make sure that you have the latest BIOS. And so a combination of the latest BIOS and making sure that you get your Windows 11 updates, you should then be A-OK, and it will say that you're good to go. If you run the device security, and this is what you should see under Secure Boot, something saying that you have all the required updates. For most folks, though, if they have older machines, they're seeing something like this, which kind of puts it in a limbo. It says, wait a minute, we kind of would like to get you updated, but we're working with the manufacturer. We don't know when it's going to be resolved. And if we look at HP, it says that right here that Secure Boot enabled between 2013 and 2023. HP is putting out new BIOS updates, and you should be good to go. And here's the list. But if you say, look here, support for HP commercial PCs outside of the service life. So these are the old guys. And it says it can be updated manually, meet the requirements, running Windows 11, various ones with these extended. What gets me, though, is they meet the system requirements for Windows 11. Well, that's kind of a catch-22, because if you've got a G3 and older, you don't meet the system requirements because the CPUs aren't supported by Windows 11. Of course, you can install it, like many of us have done, including myself. I'm doing this on a G3. And this is contact to receive manual process. Now, I've looked through and I don't see anything where HP actually gives the instructions. And I'm thinking they're just going to give you the same instructions that others have noted, where you're supposed to try and kind of goose the system into trying to give you the certificates. I've tried it myself, does not work. Other people have tried it, doesn't work for them either. So I came up with a method based on information that I gleaned from various sites and videos, kind of put it all together to show how to do it on a G3 or G2. G1, I tried. I just did not have any luck with that. I might try again just to see, and if I do, I'll put some sort of update on that. Now, people might say, well, what's the big deal? What if I don't upgrade? Well, one thing that I found as I was experimenting with this was that I had a G4. When I booted from that G4 using my Windows to Go or Win to Go external drive, it booted, everything looked great, it got updated. But then when I tried to use that Win to Go on my G3 that hadn't been updated, the G3 came up and said, oh, hey, I don't know how to boot from this thing. You know, the secure boot, you know, it's incompatible. So for those of us that like to, let's say, swap out, maybe you've got lots of units and you want to boot from, you know, the Win to Go, or maybe you want to put Windows on an SSD that you pop out of one and stick into the other, you're going to have to upgrade everything. And that's what I'm going through and making sure that I can get all this stuff upgraded. So the steps I'm going to show you, I've done on both my own personal G3, and I've done on a number of G3s, both the Elite and the Pro. Did it on the G2. Overall, the G3 was a little straightforward experience, but the G2 was similar. I would just warn, like with anything, when you're playing with BIOS settings, is that back up anything that you don't want to lose from that drive. Who knows? You could do all this and now suddenly you can't boot from that drive anymore. And you have to wipe it out and start all over again. You might say, well, I'm not a Windows person. Well, the problem is that if you get something else that has a bootloader that was signed with the Microsoft certs, because a lot of times they just use these certs because they're just easier to deal with, those aren't going to boot either. So it's probably best to be on the latest and greatest. One thing I want to point out is also, before you do anything, make sure that you are running on the most current BIOS for your machine. If you're doing this process and you ever need, you know, you just get to a point where, hey, maybe I want to experiment on a particular unit, try it a couple times before you do all the rest of yours. What I did as I was putting together the video is I would go to the advanced, and then under secure boot configuration, you can say reset secure boot keys to factory defaults. Just make sure that this is set for legacy support disable, secure boot enable. That will put everything back to the 2011 certificates, because HP stores them in kind of like a little backup guy, so that way it's kind of a fail-safe so that you can go back. Now, problem is, if you ever do that later on, after you've done all this update, you're going to, and you still need to boot from your drive, you're going to need to go through the process of putting those certs back on. So this is what you would pick, and then you would just do main and just do a save and exit. The first thing you're going to need is Rufus. If you don't have it already, this is what's going to take the ISO and turn it into a bootable flash drive. Go to Rufus, downloads. Just take this first one here, download it, and you'll be good to go. Next, we want to type in OpenSUSE download. Come down here where it says OpenSUSE desktop distributions. Then go to download. And then we want to scroll down to where it says live. So this is the live version. I just took the GNOME live CD. Doesn't really matter, it's just kind of the interface, the look. And then you can just do a MetaLink or any of them. So you just want to download it. All right, in my download folder, you'll notice that I've got this OpenSUSE Tumbleweed GNOME Live. I'm going to double click and run Rufus. Put my thumb drive in already. I'll hit select here. I'll find that GNOME. And then basically just say start, and it will go through and create the bootable drive for you. It's going to run through. Oh, it probably takes about maybe 20 minutes. And then once you're done, it will say ready, and then you can close and you can safely eject your USB drive. So what we're going to want to do is reboot, go into the BIOS and do some setup so that way then we can run OpenSUSE and then be able to go in and run the commands we need to do in order to be able to install the new certs. All right, so we hit escape when it was rebooting so we could go to the startup menu, go into BIOS setup, go to advanced, secure boot configuration. We want to change this to say legacy support enable, secure boot disable. This will allow it so that it can accept new certificates. We want to clear the secure boot keys. We want to go to main. And what we may want to do is go ahead and plug in our boot thumb drive. This is so that when we tell it to save changes and exit, when we're booting, then we can also try to go in to the boot menu and tell it to boot into that thumb drive. So do save changes and exit, and it should come up and have us type in a number saying that yes, we're aware that we are disabling secure boot. I didn't get the same thing when I did it on the G2, but definitely on the G3 and above, you do get it. So we'll say save changes and exit. All right, there's our cue. This number will just be some random 4-digit one. We'll say enter. You get the chime. And as it's booting, we want to hit escape again. This time we'll go into the boot menu and we'll pick our thumb drive. And we got the OpenSUSE. Say OK for the live. And now we've booted in. It took about maybe a minute and a half for that to come up to this main screen. We'll click down here. We'll click on console. And then I would suggest opening this up a little bit. And what we're going to type in is sudo zipper with a Y install sbctl. And you want to make sure that you're connected to the internet. So you've got your network cable connected because it needs to go out and pull this in. Anytime that you use this thumb drive, because it's the live version, you're going to always have to reinstall. So no matter how many times you boot up, you're going to have to reinstall sbctl. All right, and just hit return. That will take the default of yes. And we may want to use this other set of tools called EFI tools. So hit the up arrow, backspace, EFI tools. Same thing, return. Okay, now we want to see the status. We want to make sure that we're in a mode that's going to allow us to do the installation of the new certs. So say sudo sbctl status. All right, very good. So you notice here, startup mode enabled. If it does not say enabled, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do. If we do sudo EFI I read var -v db grep subject -a1, nothing, because there is nothing. The main certificate database is empty right now. Let's do sudo sbctl create keys. Okay, good. Secure boot keys created. We can hit the up arrow if we want. Now we're going to type in enroll keys. Okay. Hyphen M as in Mary, dash F as in Frank. Very important that you have both of them. The M is for the Microsoft keys, and the dash F says pull any keys that are already in the firmware that are coming from HP and include them. So we'll say that. Very good. So you notice enrolling keys, vendor keys from Microsoft, vendor certificate built into the firmware, enrolled them. If I hit up arrow to find my EFI read var command, run it now. Aha! Now we've got Microsoft 2011. So those are the old ones that are expiring or have already expired. Then the 2023, those are the new ones. And then here's the HP one that kind of helps to, everything to work. This one could be different. I've seen these with 2013, but I've also seen the newer ones that say 2017. So now we're set to go. We want to go back into the BIOS just to confirm that Secure Boot was turned back on as part of this process. So we can go up here and say, hit the power, and we'll say restart. Same thing, hit escape. Okay, let's go into BIOS setup, advanced, Secure Boot. Okay, good. We're back in normal Secure Boot. Go to main. What I would do at this point is take out the flash drive. And if you want, you can say save changes and exit again. That's fine. All right, we're back into Windows. Let's see what the device security shows now. Okay, so it's still saying that there's a known issue. I have seen this. What we're going to do is try one more reboot and see if that clears it up. What I've done is I've opened up a command window as administrator, and I've run PowerShell. I then went to this one site from Dell. I'll include a link to it. And it tells you to run this command here that I have highlighted, paste it into PowerShell. And what it's going to do is tell you, hey, are the 2023 certs installed? So I just ran it, and yes, it actually everything is installed. It's going to have you try this second one, which is the DB default, but I can tell you that it's going to say false because the DB default is kind of like the failsafe. If all goes wrong, that's what you can basically fall back to, and it will reinstall, basically do a factory reset. It will go back to the 2011 ones. But it includes a couple other interesting commands. One thing we're going to do is install this module that will give us more information. So I'm going to grab from here this install module UEFI v2. I'm going to go in, paste that in. This is going to go out to one of the repositories for PowerShell and install this particular module. Okay, and we just want to say default is yes, that it's okay to install it. Looks like just telling you, hey, it's untrusted. Is that okay? Sure. I've installed it on many things, and obviously this is coming from Dell itself saying to do it. It does say about this execution, remote signs. That's also, this just has to do with more command line, but we'll go ahead and add it anyway. And then we're going to import that module. And now we've got a command that's going to give us even more information. And this is actually going to look a lot like that EFI tools that you can get from inside of OpenSUSE. So we'll run this. Same sort of stuff, talking about, the Microsoft, the 2013 DB key. Exit here. And let me check that device security again. Okay. All right. For some reason, it still wants to pause it, but at least we do have the newer certs. I'm going to try one more restart. So I'm seeing if I install any pending updates that might help clean up the device security. So after doing the Windows update, now it's showing the secure boot and that all the certificates are set to go. I did find when I was doing my own G3 that I did have to go in and update Windows. So if there were any pending updates, particularly it looks like the ones for it looks like it's May of 2026, some sort of like a preview one. But anyway, once I did that, then it was showing the correct values under the device security.